Okay, let's see how this goes. So, we're out trail running at the moment. Just a few easy miles. And I thought I'd do a little bit of talking about training, because as a fitness professional, I have to run like a whole bunch of classes, spin classes, those kinds of things per week. And anyone who's ever done a spin class will attest to is sometimes they can get pretty fucking gnarly, pretty high intensity. And as the guy at the front of these screens, these rooms, not only do I have to be doing that kind of work, but also I've got to be kind of really kind of enthusiastic and leading the way and be able to think and coach and all those kinds of things. So having to do that as well as big long runs and out on the trails, all those kinds of things, is kind of a huge balancing point. And so what I've been trying to do is find a way to easily integrate the running miles, the cycling miles, the cross training and everything like that. And what I've been coming up with is kind of a point system. And the way my point system works is, so you get a point a mile for running, great. Running is the main process. It's the main thing I'm doing. So 1 point a mile, great. Every mile cycled, get half a point. So half a point per mile cycled. So a 4 mile run, 4 points, great, easy. And a 4 mile cycled, 2 points, great. So when I look at kind of training, those kinds of things that I'm doing, I have like a set idea of what I want to do a week. So generally, if I want to do an 80-mile week, let's say, then I'm going to use my point system and try and hit 80 through cycling, through running, those kinds of things. So when I look at trying to keep on top of that, a week, let's take last week for example, try and kind of hit that 100 mark through both. So did the 50 miler on Saturday, it was 53 miles, great. So there's 53 points on the week. And here's the beautiful thing about trail running, especially when you're out looking at trails that you've never really run before, totally come to a dead end apart from a real big drop off now. So I suppose trail running is great because I'm gonna slow down and try and get back on a trail somewhere, going down these horrendous Barkley-like hills. So if I fall in a minute, live feed on that. But like I was saying, so with this situation, 50 miles, 53 miles, 53 points, great. So I know I want to do 100. So leading up to that week, for example, I do a lot of commuting by cycling as well. And my commute is roughly around 4 to 5 miles, depending on the route I decide to take, to the gym. So when you're looking at that, there's a whole bunch of extras as well. So last week, 53 on the ultra, and I also did, I want to say there was 2 or 3 runs as well of about 5 miles last week as well. So that's totaling, roughly around 60 miles. So then when I do a spin class, one of the things I do is I generally stay within a endurance-based zone. So I'm getting a lot of the right kind of work and intensity on my legs for the training itself. So 63 points is about 63 miles running last week. I think I did 3 miles on Sunday as well. It's kind of a recovery run. So we're up about 66 miles in total. So then the rest of that 100 points is made up of cycling. So my spin class on Wednesday, for example, getting about 14 miles cycling in the spin class. That was both Wednesday evening and Thursday morning. So we're looking at another 7 points there per class. totaling around 77 points on the situation in total there. The rest of the commuting for that week, obviously it's 2 points apart because of the distance. So then suddenly you can start to build up a picture of mileage. So when I look to reduce cycling as much as I can and just do the running, I'm able to manage the kind of miles and the work and the resistance on my body. And that's what I've been really playing with at the moment, is its point system. It's all obviously anecdotal, but any runner who's been injured, like in the knee or the hip, will tell you that when you can't run, you cycle. There's even a meme going around at the moment calling bikes the shit injured device. I'm just going up a hill at the moment. Quite a horrible one, but there's a nice view at the top. So I'm a little bit out of breath. But yeah, so that's how I make it up at the moment. Also, sometimes, and one of the things I'm going to probably do for this next training cycle towards the ultra is include walking miles, but only under very strict criteria. And that criteria being of at least 18% gradient. So for those, I'm looking at probably a 0.25 per mile situation. So I only count whole points, never rounding up. So for any of those kind of gradient walks to count, obviously I need to do 4 miles at 18% walking for it to count as 1 point. So when I'm trying to hit like a 100-point week, anyone who follows me on Strava will see I always point it up. That's what you're seeing. Half a point for cycling, a full point for running, quarter of a point for walking. And really allows me to get my kind of fitness classes in without being too detrimental to my running, because I've still got a total there. And whether it's walking or running or cycling, it's all playing into the muscle sets which are being used. Now, especially with my spin classes, what you're able to do with spin is, if you've got a nerdy enough instructor who knows how to work a spin bike, you can work based off your functional threshold power. So what that is, essentially, is like a maximum power output, if you will, that you can sustain through a bike through 60 minutes. So you find this magic number by sitting your ass in a bike for 60 minutes and averaging out the power output that you put through the bike. Then you always work as a percentage of that. So science suggests that working around 65, 75, 80% of your maximum power is a great place to sit in for endurance work. So to develop muscular endurance, that kind of thing. So obviously anything over, I would suggest anything over maybe a half marathon, that's a great zone to sit in for an extended period of time to really help your that was me swallowing a fly. Well, now I'm gonna have to swallow something to eat the fly, maybe a spider to eat the fly. I don't know why I swallowed that fly. Perhaps I'll die. So yeah, so the percentages, sitting in those endurance zones for, a good hour session or so really is beneficial, because it's all the same muscle sets you're using on the bike. The only thing that you're missing is obviously the impact, those micro tears that you're going to get from running in, putting the miles in. So that's a quick idea. And like I say, so at the moment, training for the 100 miler, I'm doing two things. I'm looking to put running miles on the legs every single day until I decide to taper. And I think I'm going to be tapering about 7 days off. So minimum 1 mile a day on top of everything else. No rest days. I want to get my mileage up to about, running wise, I want to peak at 80 miles. And during that peak 80 mile week, I'm looking to do a couple of 20 milers at the weekend. One of which will be an early morning. So getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and doing a run knackered. And then the second one will be at kind of 1 o'clock in the morning the following that. So I'm basically getting up super early to run 20 miles, having a day, becoming incredibly tired, and then going out at maybe 12:30, 1 o'clock of that night to run another 20 miles in the dark over some trails as well. I don't really want to run much more than that in a kind of a pop, but it's just getting my brain, getting my body used to being overtired and dealing with that kind of work as well whilst fatigued. And especially the midnight work, the late night work, it's going to be all kind of trail work, because that's the most important thing I need to get on the block, is those concentration skills, running horrendous trails, trying to ignore hallucinations and all those kinds of things. I have to go from there. So that's my training regime, those 100 points, that point system that I use just to fit in, because I do lots of cycling and lots of spin classes on top of everything else. I also do a bunch of strength training every week, but that's a different video for a different time, especially considering I've got another big hill to run now and I look like a dickhead running around talking to a phone. Like, share, subscribe, questions in the comments down below. Find me on Instagram, Rich Runs Too Far, and have a good one.